Hey everyone, this is Cece here for Scrapbook Centrale and welcome to another Tutorial Tuesday. So as many of you know, last weekend Denise and I were in Florida learning all kinds of cool techniques and projects with some of the most creative people out there. I was in a class with none other than Tim Holtz, and he showed us how to put together a fun cart using a whole bunch of his products and some of that beautiful mirror sheet. So stick around, I'm going to show you first what you're going to need to create this project and then we'll get started. As usual, we're going to work on our craft mat and we'll also be using the heat tool. We'll also use broken china and brushed pewter distress stain, and the brushed pewter is a new distress stain from the metallic collection. We'll need a water mister bottle, brushed corduroy and broken china distress inks, as well as 2 applicator tools with some foams, clear rock candy stickles, the collage glue stick, the Ranger water brush, the following distress markers in barn door, black soot, weathered wood, spiced marmalade, peel paint, and vintage photo, Tim Holtz tiny attacher, Ranger's archival ink in jet black, Tim Holtz tonic scissors. We'll also use Christmas blueprint stamp set number CMS 135 from the Tim Holtz collection, the Christmas adornments, crinkle ribbon, tinsel twine, the mirrored sheets, some musical note tissue tape, 1 medium-sized rhinestone, some 3D foam squares, the World Play alphabet die set by Tim Holtz, 1 number 8 manila tag, 1 piece of watercolor paper that measures 3.5 by 5, and a piece of moss green cardstock that measures 7.5 by 7 that is folded at the 3 3/4 inch mark. And to give you an idea of how much mirror sheet you're going to need, you're going to cut a piece of 2.5 by the full width of the mirrored paper to die cut your letters. So out of my crinkle ribbon pack, I cut out a piece of 10 inches of the crinkle ribbon because I need this out kind of at the same time that I'm going to be working on my tag. The first step is to stain our tag, and I'm going to take the distress stain in broken china and I'm just going to let this pool onto my mat. And I'm going to do the same with the brushed pewter, but I'm not going to mix them. I'm going to deposit an amount of that right here. And I'm going to grab my tag and I'm just going to run this through my tag, just like so. And what you want to do is want to get your tag good and saturated. And if you feel that you don't have enough of the blue, you can just go ahead and put more on your mat. Like this. It's just a swiping motion really that you need to do. And look how pretty my tag already looks. So now what I want to do is at the same time I'm just going to stain my ribbon. And so I'm going to take my ribbon and I've crinkled it up and I'm just going to dip it into the stain, and if you don't have enough stain you can just keep going. You can even go directly onto it, and at the same time that I'm staining it I'm kind of crinkling it up, and I like to leave some white spaces onto the ribbon. It just looks more vintage to me, but if that bothers you, you can just go ahead and take more of your distress stain and add some ink. So I'm just going to roll it up in a ball like this and I'm going to set it aside to dry, and in the meantime I'm going to dry my tag with the heat tool. Just going to wipe this a little bit. And while my tag is drying, because the distress stain is reactive to water, I'm going to spritz it a little bit. And this is going to create nice water stains on our tag. And if you want to add some more color, you can go ahead and do that. And I might do that. I kind of like my tag a little bit darker. Okay, so for now we can put this aside. We're going to work on our stamping, and I have my piece of watercolor paper here and the snowman, and I will stamp this snowman onto the watercolor paper. And I'm going to stamp this just so that I have the snowman and not necessarily those lines onto my watercolor paper, because I want to leave some room because we need to stamp another hat. So I will make sure that I have enough room for the hat here in the corner. Both of my elements are going to be cut out. Now it's time to color the snowman, and for this I'm going to use the distress markers as well as the water brush. There's already some marks that indicates where the shadows should be, so I'm just going to go over with the weathered wood, and I'm just going to put a little bit of some of that marker here, and take the water brush and just kind of get it going first on my mat, and then kind of like moving the ink around. I'm not scraping the paper, I'm just moving the ink around and walking it towards the middle. And if you feel that you don't have enough, you can just add some more of that color. Like so. So I'm going to keep on working on coloring the snowman using all of the markers that I mentioned at the beginning, and then I'll be right back. Now that I've colored my snowman, I'm going to cut each piece out, so the little hat and the whole snowman. And I don't know if you noticed, but I just learned that this past weekend. So this blade right here is serrated, and it's actually the blade that you're going to see when you look at the writing on the scissors. And if you cut this way with the serrated blade facing you, it won't cut smooth as any normal scissors, but you can actually invert the scissors to get a good clean cut, especially if you're doing some fussy cutting. So if you don't like the look that you get when you're cutting on with this serrated blade, just turn your scissors around, and they're built to be handled either way. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut my snowman with my smooth blade, and I'll be right back. So now I have my snowman and the little hat cut up, and the next thing we want to do is we want to stamp again the same image directly onto our tag that has dried, and I want to show you how beautiful and shimmery this is. I'm going to use the archival ink, bring back the stamp, like this. I'm going to now die cut the word joy onto the mirror sheet. So here are my letters all die cut. So I'm just gonna pop out the J here. I'm not gonna bother with that dot here because we're gonna use a rhinestone instead. The 0, which is going to be our O, and the Y. So I've got the rhinestone, our musical note paper tape. By now our ribbon is dry, and look how pretty it is. It's all wrinkled and aged. I love it. And I'm going to need the tiny attacher and the snowflake out of the trinkets. The adornments, sorry. We're using the snowflake out of this package of Christmas adornments, so I have that. And some tinsel twine. So now that we've got our image stamp, we're going to put the ribbon through the hole before we attach any other embellishment, and more importantly before we attach the tag onto the card base. And for this I'm just going to fold it in half, and going from the front to the back, and then pulling the two tails this and pulling. So now we've got our ribbon through the tag. I might cut a bit the tail ends because I think it's too long. We've got some distressing to do. So on the tag itself, I'm going to use my brush corduroy. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I should have distressed before I actually attached my ribbon, but that's okay. I'll work around that. I love that color because it gives it that really beautiful distress look without overpowering the blue, which I really like. So I've got the tag done, and now we're going to give the same treatment to our card. I just don't want to stain the back of my card, so I'm just going to wash away the ink that I had on my mat, and I'm going to take broken china. First going to glue the tag, and for this I'm going to use the collage glue stick, which works really nicely for that. And the trick with the glue stick, you want your glue to be gloopy, is the word I'm looking for. It kind of needs to be moving underneath the pressure that you're giving it. So that's a good indication that you have enough glue. And don't worry if it falls on your mat, because you can pick it up. And I'm going to attach this right on the card base, centering it like so. I'm going to glue the snowman right over the snowman that I stamped. For this, I'm going to use foam adhesive. What I want to do is I want to give my snowman a little bit of a round shape. So I'm going to use my fingers. So I've given my snowman a little bit of a rounded shape just so that he pops more. And I'm going to use foam adhesive just in the middle of it. So one in the middle here, and probably smaller ones here. If you want to double it up, if you want to put 2 layers of foam adhesive, you can do that. I might do that for the body because I've actually rounded it quite a bit. So maybe I'll use 2 layers of foam adhesive just on the body right here. It's just going to add more dimension. So I'm going to glue this right over top, and don't worry that it doesn't match up exactly. It obviously won't match to a T because you've rounded up the body. Like so. Already looking good. I love it. Fun. And I'm going to do the same for the hat. I'm just going to curl it just a little bit. And the reason why I colored the hat is especially for that reason. If I'm rounding it and the hat becomes a little bit smaller than the one underneath, you don't want to see just some white edge underneath. So that is the reason why I colored both hats. Normally you wouldn't have to if you're doing just straight up 3D effect, just layering one on top of the other, but because I knew I wanted to have a rounded shape, I went ahead and colored the hat as well of the first snowman underneath. So there it is. Now we're going to add a strip of the musical note tissue tape, and if it's too long I'm going to cut, oops, like this, and just rip it with my fingers and do it like this. Just underneath the snowman, about, oh, I would say 1/4 inch underneath the snowman. Now I'm going to add the letters. I think I want to start with the O in the middle. So first I remove the sticky side, which is the white paper. So you just remove that sticky side, and I'm going to add the O right here. The mirrored sheet is great because it's actually sticky back, so you don't have to bother with adhesive. If your rhinestone is not self-adhesive, you can put a bit of glossy accents to the back of it. So we're going to add some twine here at the bottom, and I'm just going to attach it with the tiny attacher. Obviously you need to open your card, The twine is really fluffy, so you can get away with using your tiny attacher horizontally right on top of the twine, and it doesn't show up like so. And then I'm just going to snip the end off. Very easy. Next I'm going to add the snowflake. For this I'm going to use the glossy accents, which I forgot to mention in your supplies. So I'm just going to put just a little bit of glossy accents like that, not too much because otherwise it'll take forever to dry. And I'm going to hold it for a few seconds. I always use this time to put the cap back onto my glossy accents. We need to add some distress stickles and clear rock candy. Now here's another trick that I've learned this past weekend. When you add clear rock candy, because this is water-based, if you add it to an image that you've colored with markers or paint that are water-based, the rock candy will actually dilute your colors. So if you have different colors, you don't want them to run into each other. So for that purpose, I'm just going to add clear rock candy right over the gray on my snowman, and not everywhere, because then I'm going to end up with a giant mess of colors and I don't want that. So I'm just going to take the clear rock candy and I'm going to put a blob or a glob, or whatever you call it, and I'm going to use the tool that I was born with. Very fancy tool, my finger, and I'm going to just put some in where the weathered wood, where I've colored with the weathered wood, like so. And it's going to make that color pop at the same time. Just like so. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, the camera will pick it up a little bit. So when that dries, the glue will dry clear, and then you'll see the speckles that are in the clear rock candy. So now that I've actually finished the card slash tag, now I can remove the protective layer that is on the mirror sheet of my letters. So that way I'm not afraid to wreck any of the letters while I'm building my snowman or my card. And you'll see how cool and vibrant. It is a true mirror. It's not metallic, it is mirror. Look how cool that is. How fun. And there's our little snowman, our little Floridian snowman. He was actually born in Florida. Would you believe it? And look how cool he is. And that is our tag card for today. I hope that you've enjoyed all the different techniques that I showed you. I love that mirror paper. I think it's just so cool. It's not paper. It's he calls it a mirror sheet, I believe. It's definitely not paper. It's thicker than that. I love that snowflake as well. And my rock candy stickles is not dry yet. It'll take on a different sheen once it's dry. This was fun. This was very simple, and it's obviously a card that your recipients will enjoy at Christmas time, and I hope you get to try this. If you have any questions or comments, as usual, leave them below, and I will catch you next week. Bye!